So today with me is my friend Orla, and we actually met through quite, I wouldn't say unusual circumstances, but odd circumstances. I think we initially met at a brunch,
Funnily enough, yeah.
and you were still talking about creating
The last time I went to brunch.
the last time you went to brunch, which was like years ago, and then we were kind of starting off our own ventures around the same time.
Yeah.
You were talking to me at this. Well, the music was blaring at this brunch, so I didn't understand a word you said, but
And the
you were
Irish accent.
and the very thick Irish accent. And then you said you wanted to do something where you educate people about finances, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then months later, we met again on a yacht because we have similar social circles,
Yes.
and that's when you actually started your brand, Sail Wealth. And then we kind of like there was a whole like party going around in the background, but I'm like, tell me more about this Sail Wealth, and we spent the next 40 minutes, bobbing and weaving through the ocean as you told me about.
Trying not to get seasick.
Trying not to get seasick and talking about money, which was like, and I love the idea or concept, which was basically you wanted to begin educational finance for expats. So where did the kind of core idea came from? Well, how did you come up with this? And why did you want to dive straight into like the industry of personal finance education?
Well, it came from me. Like I had a light bulb moment during COVID when everything was shut down here. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I need to do something. I had like no job security, no pension plan, nothing. And that's when I realized I have to set up my own plan. I have to take control. I remember the moment when I realized like how money actually works. Like I was like, oh, this is what it's like. This is how it works. And it came from like the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all his principles and his practices, but it's a really good book to kind of like open your eyes to how the money game actually works. And the game, it's a money game. And once you learn the game, you can develop a plan for yourself once you know your place in society, etc. And I was literally sitting in my apartment during lockdown, which had no balcony. So I was like stuck inside. And I was on the windowsill of the balcony reading it, and I was just staring out the window. Daydreaming is what I do best. And then I was like, oh God, okay, I need to do something. So I went home. I went home to Ireland for like 8 months. And then I started looking into the stock market. Now I was already earning pittance at this moment because I was on like unpaid leave, and started picking stocks, which then I quickly realized.
Yeah, you like
it's not the way to begin.
Single shareholding kind of. This is the one that's gonna go to the moon.
I know how the game works. I read one book about finance. Let me go all in. Well, I didn't. I started with like €50 or something. And I started playing around with that. And then I was like, I picked a company. I remember the company. I was like, oh, Richard Branson invested in this. He's a really smart man. You know what? Let me invest in the same company. Yeah, it didn't work. I think it's at like a zero now or something, like 50 cents or something. So I did not earn anything on that. When I quickly realized I was never going to be Warren Buffett, that's when I genuinely started studying it for myself. And I decided, okay, let me convert this now and let me turn my passion for my learning into something that I can help other people like me build.
Which makes total sense because, coming from, so I have a degree in finance. I speak to accountants and money people all the time. And sometimes we're just speaking in complete gibberish to the layman person. And I didn't understand the kind of, I wouldn't call it a knowledge gap, but a core understanding on how the financial systems in our world work, what kind of returns you can expect, and what kind of approach someone that hasn't really begun their own financial, self-independence should start. So, that being said, I think that you were on the other side of things where you're learning things as you go along, and that was absolutely perfect. So how did you begin educating yourself on how to control your own finances, and you've begun teaching this to other people with your company Sail Wealth? What was the core mission statement that you're looking to proceed in? How does someone start with taking control of their own finances, in your opinion?
Well, I started by making the mistakes.
Yeah.
So I've learned all the mistakes that I can now help people prevent. And obviously I said stock picking. I also tried some crypto too. And to be honest, what I realized about myself was that I'm a pretty emotional person. And when it comes to money equals emotions. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And a lot of people like me, a lot of expats. We are driven by our emotions. And then when I realized you really do need to be very objective when it comes to investing, that I can now teach this, I don't want to say strategy, but it's a plan. You just make a simple plan and then you stick to that. And it's actually that simple. Once you're able to stick to something consistently, it's the same as going to the gym. And that's why I always use fitness analogies, because I feel like going to the gym and actually investing for your future, for the long-term style of investing, is very much like going to the gym. You're not going to see rewards after 1 week of going to the gym. You're not going to see rewards investing in a long-term plan after 1 week. So it's the same thing. It's about building consistency for yourself, building discipline and creating habits that are built around your spending. And then once you understand there's a gap between spending less than what you earn and investing the difference, you can do that. You can create a plan from that.
That's really interesting. And I almost feel like modern marketing on social media would really enable this idea of, buy low, sell high is now the only way to get rich, which it was never the way most people got rich anyway. I think that anyone that's built a substantial amount of wealth has been over the span of 10, 15, 20 years of, quite simply putting their money into index fund and purchasing assets that don't go up with inflation and that go up with inflation, kind of protect your wealth.
Outpace it. That's what we want to essentially do. But in order to actually build a plan that outpaces inflation, you need to set a foundation first. So that's one of my core teachings, is how to set the foundation first. Because as I told you, starting with stock picking and starting with crypto, there's no foundation, It's like I'm trying to build a roof with absolutely no house underneath it. So there's just no point. You have to build a house, then you can build the roof.
And you also mentioned that expats are mostly driven by emotion when they move here. I guess I have a slightly different experience being kind of born and raised here and seeing the slow transition towards more consumerist tendencies in the country. Do you feel like, when people move here from Dubai, when they're like, let's say 25, they caught a pretty decent expat package and they're not paying taxes to their home country anymore. Do you think that, before the taxes would take away your pension and it was almost automated?
It's done for you. Yeah.
Well, whereas now people didn't really necessarily have the tools that they needed to transition from, okay, the state is no longer looking after my affairs. I'm not paying the state anymore. And now I need to start spending the additional amount as if I was looking after my own retirement. Is that the perspective of?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a gap, right? And while, okay, you can look at it from a negative perspective, but once you actually realize the gap, then it can become really positive. Because think of it, you're at home, let's say the UK or Ireland or US, wherever's home for you, you're paying 20 to 40% in tax on your salary, depending on the country you're living in. But once you realize you're now in the UAE, you're earning probably much more than what you would have back home, but you're not paying any tax. So now pretend you still pay that tax, 20 to 40%, whatever, and you actually take that sum of money, the 20 to 40%, and you invest it in something like index funds. I know other people are obsessed with property, but obviously my bias is towards index funds, and invest that 20 to 40% of your income or your profits, whatever you're doing. And then you invest and keep doing that consistently. Every time you get paid, every month you get paid, you're doing that. You're growing your wealth and you've no middleman. That's the beauty. You're in full control of this. You've no middleman taking fees from it. You're literally just buying the index fund directly yourself by doing a bit of learning. I don't recommend anyone just going on and buying blind. Obviously do your research and your study and then keep doing that. So pretend you're paying tax, but you're actually paying your future self by following that system.
And I guess as someone that's on the opposite side of things, I preferably, and I guess this is more of a third world Pakistani thing of preferring physical assets.
Hey, I'm Irish, it's okay.
So it's just, but index funds have amazing advantages of compounding interest. They're highly liquid. You can take them out in case of an emergency while you're building your wealth. And people don't realize that you can actually purchase index funds no matter where you are in the UAE. Yeah. And you're not exactly tied to where you're from to, let's just sign up for Vanguard or some other index fund to immediately access it. So your general advice would be to then, so is it more about personal budgeting or is it more about just making sure you do the bare minimum to invest in your index fund? Because I've met people that have made, let's not like up to six figures in a year. Some people that are making, ludicrous amounts of money a
Yeah.
month, but they end
Yeah.
up leaving the UAE with nothing. It's like, how does that happen? How does
Yes.
that gets paid so much end up leaving kind of break even when they leave? Why do you think that is?
I think it's to do with not actually realizing the gap. A lot of people don't realize that, because what you mentioned earlier is that when you're in countries like wherever you're from, there's a system in place. There's literally a system in place where your money is going to some form of whatever government pension or your workplace pension. Your money's going there. Or you'll probably have access to some financial, I don't know, advisor or whatever. If you have one of those, they're doing it for you. But people don't realize the gap here, and then they end up living paycheck to paycheck or income statement to income statement if you have your own business. So then they're not like, let's say you're earning $100,000 per month, but then you don't have a system in place. So then you actually end up spending $100,000 a month. So someone earning $20,000 versus $100,000, the person who's earning $20,000 might actually be better off because they've put a system in place, because they've done something, they've realized the gap. But if you're earning $100,000, still spending $100,000, you're not creating a wealth gap. You need to create a gap and invest that gap. So that's what I teach, but I'm not necessarily teaching budgeting. I give all those tools and I help people and direct them about spend less than what you earn. But essentially, I actually don't like getting bogged down by budgeting, because I hate budgeting. If someone throws a budget or a spreadsheet at me, I'm like, oh, I really don't like it. But it is essential. Maybe do it once a year. Minimum do it once a year. Try to like understand your numbers, your spending, and get that gap as big as you can. But obviously you want to enjoy the here and now. So enjoy the here and now and find that balance between living in the present and investing for your future. And obviously, the more you invest for your future, the quicker you can, maybe get to retirement or start like redirecting your energy into like a passion project that might pay as well. But once you realize that, then you can start, like aligning your spending with your values. So what has true value to you? So if people don't understand their own values, if people aren't willing to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to brunch every Saturday, so I'm spending 700, 500 dirhams per week on brunch. Whereas if you actually skip maybe 3 brunches out of the month and just go once a month instead of once a week, then you can invest that difference in an index fund. It depends. Everyone has a different way of dealing with things. That was me. I kind of stepped back from those things because I was like, I don't actually like going to brunch. So I could put that money in an index fund instead of going to brunch.
And I guess, talking about personal finance can be a very sensitive issue because people need to disclose a lot of how much they make, how much they spend, and people still tie a lot of their value towards how much money they make in a year. So how do you approach that? Let's just say a client came to you saying, okay, I want to set up a system or a plan for investing my money. How do you go about that personal finance conversation with someone? What do you ask? Where does the conversation go?
So what we start, I do a 6-week program with people. It depends on what they need. First, I start with a clarity call and I get real with the person. So I don't promise high returns. I'm very transparent. I said, just by the way, this is a get rich slow scheme, not a get rich quick scheme. So if you're here for trading, well, usually these people they don't come on the clarity call because they know this beforehand. But they are looking to build something long term. But I have to understand their here and now. So do they have, let's say, for example, an emergency fund in place? Do they have any savings? So if they have savings, that is really good because it tells me that, okay, they know they have to have some money set aside for something that might pop up in your life. I actually call it, and it's from J.L. Collins, the author of The Simple Path to Wealth, but it's FU money, your FU money, and I won't curse. You can fill in the blanks yourself. But essentially your FU money is like, creating your emergency fund, your short-term cash that will get you out of any drama. So once this person has that in place, and of course I can help them create that as well, then making sure that that's in the right place. Then you can go on to the next step. Well, making sure there's no credit card debt as well, because credit card debt is one of the quickest way to just losing your money. You are then you're paying the bank interest rather than getting the bank to pay you interest. So once we can flip that, that's one of the main things as well, credit card debt, getting out of that. Then you can start looking at long-term investments. But you have to, as I mentioned, the foundation. You have to make sure the foundation's in place. So no credit card debt, savings, and then you can start investing for the future. So essentially that would helping with that over the 6 weeks.
So that does help with what they should be doing moving forward. But let's just say that you're talking to someone that's just landed in UAE.
Yeah.
They're starting off. What are the key mistakes that you say, okay, like this is what I've seen 100 people do. It's a consistent pattern of them making this mistake. What would you tell them saying avoid these, few things? What do you think that would be?
Lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
Definitely lifestyle creep. And it's very easily done. So we've kind of mentioned it already, but when you come here, you don't realize the gap that you've left your cozy little pension plan back home. You don't have a workplace pension. I mean, some places actually do have it here.
I believe DIFC mandates that you have a pension plan.
But there's so many organizations that don't offer it, which, as I said, once you realize that gap, it can actually be a very positive thing because it's not going through anyone. You can take control of it yourself once you learn the right system. And then, obviously, as I said, lifestyle creep, that is the wealth gap I'm talking about. That is you fall into the living the paycheck to paycheck cycle because I love Dubai. Like, there's so much to do here. There's so many things to enjoy. And then you fall into that. And then, of course, comparing yourself to your neighbor. That is like when you're being influenced by the external factors, and then you end up spending because of that, because you feel the pressure from society. Like, try your very best not to fall into that and understand what has value to you and spend towards your values, not towards what someone else wants you to spend on.
I also believe, like, in most countries that I've traveled, I've been to the UK, I recently went to Australia. I feel like people are a lot, and including places like Singapore, people might be incredibly wealthy, but they're a bit more reserved.
Yeah.
Whereas in UAE, it's big and it's loud. It feels like everyone has a Rolex. Everyone is wearing, hundreds of thousands of dirhams worth of jewelry just walking around. So I think that there's not as much of a shame about wearing your wealth on your sleeves, if it will. And I think that is also enabling lifestyle creep of saying, well, I must be doing terribly because all these people have these nice things on them and I do not. So do you think that it's, luxury spending that's mostly driving this deficit? Because I think that there are certain things that creep up quite randomly. I think like the cost of living can go up and down depending. It's pretty volatile. So, but from your experience, most of the time it's personal spending, not the actual cost of living in Dubai that's causing this?
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily. I would also say it's the person themselves, because you can live pretty frugally in Dubai, but again, it depends on the person and their values. You don't have to be influenced by these external factors. You really don't have to be. Like, you don't have to be paying 10,000 dirhams a rent. You have to understand what you're earning. You have to realize your place in society, and then you can grow from there. But you have to get real with yourself, and like, it's pretty direct, If you can't afford a Rolex, then you really shouldn't be buying a Rolex. And that's based on your income level. If your income level is lower than whatever it's going to cost you to buy a Rolex, then just wait to buy the Rolex. Or buy it as an investment. Don't wear it, leave a compound, and then resell it in 10, 20 years, something like that. But I think understanding your place in society, and maybe that's a bit too direct for people to hear, but you really do have to realize what your income level is before you start spending your money. Like, that's how people fall into credit card debt.
Yeah.
Then you're paying the bank 20 to 40% interest per year. That's insane.
I'll do you one better. The worst thing I've ever seen is people buying a really expensive depreciating asset. So we're talking, typically cars, technology. Yes. But then you use credit, so it's a double whammy, right? So the value of this thing's getting lower. You won't exit, but your interest and repayments are going towards a financial system. So you're almost like
you're always in debt.
Yeah, and you're spending 20 to 30% of the actual cost of the thing because you can't buy it out in cash. While at the same thing, that thing's losing value. So if you want to get out and sell it and say, okay, I don't want this debt anymore, even that, the selling price of the original product or service or whatever you acquired.
What's the ROI here?
Well, the ROI is not only bad, but it doesn't even cover the interest you've accumulated over purchasing the thing. So it's kind of this strange trap
this is step one of educating yourself.
Yeah.
This is one of the first things I tell people to do. Educate yourself.
And that being said, there's nothing, even doing that, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I had a friend who had this like dream car. He really wanted it. It was basically his core desire in life to acquire this vehicle and drive it around. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can do that. But just know that you're not
You
making
have
the
to
best.
understand the trade-off.
Yes.
That everything's a trade-off, right?
Like dream, slight economic setback. And as long as
Yeah.
you're okay with that decision,
Yes.
go ahead. But I think that there's a subconscious
Yeah.
motive that's happening here that's not
Yeah.
letting people realize that that's what they're actually doing.
It's like, for example, like, Stephen Bartlett, he does the Diary of a CEO, and he says it. He said one of his main goals was getting a whatever car, a Range Rover or something like that, Land Rover, I can't remember. But he was literally like, that's what I wanted. That's what he thought would give him happiness. And then he got it, and he said, okay, I did enjoy it. But then he realized, oh, this is it. It's not necessarily about attaining this lavish thing. It all boils down to the psychology behind it. And a lot of us are not willing to actually sit down and sit with ourselves and understand what is driving these decisions. What's driving this decision making? Is it actually because I just want to look rich to everybody else? Or do I truly want this unbelievable car? It depends. Maybe you're a race car driver and you're obsessed with cars. Fair enough, go for it. But if you're not, and you are literally being driven by external influence, that is the key. I want people to realize the psychology behind their decision making.
And despite, I would say we're both economically, educated at this point for many, many years. But even I imagine we have like things that we're saying, you know what, I'm taking a loss on this, but I don't. For me, it's technology. I have like so many computers and monitors that are the latest, whatever, but I'll always pay them in cash or I'll budget for them to make a purchase. What do you think are your, like, as the money lady, what is your, like, I don't care, I'm buying it, it's fine, I can live with myself if I do this?
Me, it's holidays. I love going traveling. I love traveling. So I won't, like, I love going to places. I love hiking. And they can actually be expensive. Like I climbed Kilimanjaro. That was an expense, And I wanted to go with a legit travel agency who, they were good. They treated the porters really well as well. So I paid extra for that as an example. So I didn't hold back on the expense there. That was really important to me. And that experience was amazing. So I like to spend on intangible experiences rather than tangible things. That would be the difference.
That makes complete sense because you only get to, when you work in such a competitive environment by UAE, I've seen one frequent thing is that people tend to travel more when they're here because they just need
so much access.
There's so much access, and they also need a break from their like very grueling work lives
and to get out of the city as well.
Yeah,
it's nice to take a step away from the city.
Every couple of weeks, I feel like someone's driving to another emirate to stay at a resort or relax, or even traveling somewhere else to just take a bit of a breather.
Yeah, it's nice to do those things too. But again, it's all about, like, I think it's future planning too. And there was a study done by Cambridge about, like, you learn about these behaviors by the time you're 7. So a lot of it boils down to those factors, what you learn by the time you're 7, not necessarily about money. The study wasn't specifically about your money habits, but the behaviors that drive your money habits, you do learn them by the time you're around 7 years of age. And one of those things will be like your future planning. So for example, I know that I want to go on these trips. So I'll set up a sinking fund for it. I'll start putting money away per month. That will then fund it. And then I won't feel a massive credit card pinch when I do the Kilimanjaro trip that's going to cost me a few $1,000s or whatever, I'll pre-plan for it. So I think pre-planning helps too.
Do you help plan kind of financial retirement for just individuals, or do you deal with a lot of couples? Is there a difference in approaches between dealing with two people working together versus one person? Just don't go.
Again, it'll boil down to the two people. But couples and finance, it can be a really touchy subject.
It is
there too.
A nightmare. Like I was like, when I talk to my wife about like how much we should spend and save, I go to sleep with a knife underneath my bed because she's gonna be like you slashed my holiday budget. You did this, and then she'll.
We're not budgeting. We're not doing this.
I'm terrified. I'm honestly terrified whenever we have that conversation, but it's so important. So like,
it is.
You're inserting yourself into that. So how do you navigate that conversation with people?
I think it's important to be open and transparent about it. And it's very important to listen to the other person. Like genuinely listen, like active listening, where you actually sit down, you don't say anything, you genuinely hear what the other person says, and you have a conversation. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to sit down with a spreadsheet. Like, go out somewhere nice, do it over dinner or a drink or over coffee, over breakfast, whatever you like to do. Just have the conversation there. But make sure it's intentional. This date is about let's have this conversation, and just surround yourself in a nice environment and sit down then and have that open and honest and raw conversation and go deep. Go deep.
I just imagine you on the phone being in the corner in the middle of the dinner table.
Yeah, well, Ramazzetti, this is his speciality. I don't know, have you heard of Ramazzetti?
I'm not, I think so, yeah.
He's one of the finance gurus anyway, but that's his speciality, money and couples. So go listen to his podcast. He's well more versed than me with money and couples, but he's really, really good. And his podcast, he puts them in a separate room.
Yeah.
It's really funny. And they have to be in a separate room. And he's like, let's say, the mediator about finances. So it's really interesting because a lot of the time the opposite end attracts, you know. If somebody's good at budgeting, the other person's usually pretty lavish with their spending. It's like they say opposites attract. So I think it's finding a happy medium and what suits both people best.
When it has come to couples, have you seen more like, okay, one's a frugal person, one's a lavish person? Have you seen examples where both were extremely lavish or both were extremely frugal? Like, what is
usually the opposite? Usually it's the opposite. So then it's a matter of trying to get real and finding the best version of what's right for both of them. Obviously, if someone is spending and they're in debt, that's difficult, because then you're constantly going to be in debt. That's a really hard cycle to get out of, because that's behavioral as well. That's coming from, by the time, the behaviors you've learned since you're 7, that's stemming from that. So I would also recommend therapy. Therapy is really good. Sometimes I do feel like a therapist. I'm definitely not a qualified therapist. So obviously there's got to be boundaries in place, and I'm not going to be giving advice to anyone about their psychology or psychosis behind their decision making and things like that.
And your clients that mostly contact you, where do you feel like is kind of the age range where you thinking about their retirement or their personal finances? Do you feel like there's a common number that you see cropping up?
Yeah, there would be. To be fair, it's between like 30s and 40s usually. I've had a couple of people in their 20s, obviously with the beauty of compound interest, being in your 20s and realizing
huge advantage.
Yeah, huge advantage, because compounding plus time equals your best friend. So yeah, I've had people in their 20s, but mostly 30s and 40s is when people really start to realize, oh, I need to sort this. I've realized the gap. I understand I need to do something. Let me take action.
Well, I think like the reason for that might be is that your 20s, you're just, you know,
of course.
You're scrambling to survive. You're not, you don't know anything, and you want to have fun. And at the same time, it's not, you think that, you know, the $100-$200 a month isn't going to lead to any substantial difference, but turns out it makes a huge difference.
It makes a massive difference. Like if you start investing at 20, by the time you're 60, you are sorted. Happy days. But yeah, when you're 30 or 40, you do have to put away a little bit more. That's just how maths works. But you are earning a bit more, hopefully, by the time you're 30, 40. And understand that, like try and earn much more income and invest that difference.
Do you believe in, so let's just say that on the opposite end, we're talking about people in the UAE managing their personal finances, but let's just say that you are an individual that is living in a country with a pension plan and a retirement plan. Do you still recommend investing in an index fund, or should you just let the state take care of it? What do you prefer as the strategy there, or a mix?
So basically, it depends on the system. Again, can you have control over it? There's like, for example, let's take the UK system. That's very specific. But once you understand it, you can take advantage of it. Now, they are making changes at the moment, actually. But there's still a lot of potential there once you understand how it works with the different funds. For example, take advantage of the workplace pension, because whatever the limit is that workplace will invest for you, like make sure you put that limit in, because that company is then going to match the difference. So understand, invest to that amount. And then once all those buckets are full and you're investing in the state pension options, the tax-free options, then you can go down the DIY route, so the do-it-yourself route, and take control if you have extra money to do that. But once you're making sure you're taking advantage of all the tax opportunity first, then I wouldn't recommend the DIY investing route until you've taken advantage of all the tax breaks, because that's the key. You want to pay as little tax as possible. Legally, obviously.
So, of course, legally.
Plug.
So, that being said, do you think that personal finance is mostly like a math issue, an educational issue, or a personal behavior thing? Like,
I think it's all of the above, Mo. It's all of the above.
So, do you think that, like, let's just say, what is the mindset shift that needs to happen with someone? Is it like, what would you say is the first thing that someone needs to realize and internalize before they take on their financial.
Step out of avoider mode.
Yeah.
Stop avoiding this.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to do the hard thing, and that's look in the mirror and realize you need to take action. And then, like, you don't have to know a whole lot. You need to know the basics. I can help people with the basics. That's what I do. And anyone who wants to go further than the basics, of course, I can help with that. But that depends on your interest, because a lot of people aren't interested in money. They're not interested in finances. But, like, definitely have a core understanding of the best practice of how money actually works and what you should be doing that's best for your life, your goals, and your future.
So hypothetically, and I've always had this question because I haven't grown up in a country with any kind of state pension plan, etc.
Yeah.
Do you think that if in your imaginary society we have Queen Orla, she controls the government in all facets and financials?
I don't know who put
a lot
me
of
in charge,
pressure.
but whoa, okay.
Would you prefer that there be no state pension that is taxed and people directly take care
You're
of their
really putting me on the spot here,
yeah,
Mom.
like, okay, let's run a hypothetical. What would
Yeah.
you do if you could run a system? Would you prefer people completely maintain their retirement, or would you have the government do it, or would you have a mixed approach? What would you think would be best for people?
I obviously am so biased here. I love, and that's because it's me though, because I genuinely love this. I love having full control over it myself. I love having the understanding of what I'm doing, where my money is going, what I'm investing in. But that's me, because I genuinely have an interest in this. And I think it's cost efficient to be, once you know what you're doing and once you are objective about it and once you understand it's probably the most boring plan
incredibly boring.
The more boring the better, right? It's the passive style of investing, the DIY, the do-it-yourself route of investing. That's what I love. That's what I suggest people learn and understand and do it for themselves. Now I understand not everyone can do that. So I think the workplace pension is very good options in certain countries. And then if they have extra cash to invest, yeah, of course, do that for sure. But definitely take advantage of the free money from a workplace pension. I do think that is a good opportunity. Government pensions, to be honest, it depends. It depends on the government, doesn't it? I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about government, but for example, the Irish system wouldn't be the best system when it comes to investing. It really wouldn't. I actually have a petition about it. I have a petition about it.
Tell me about your petition. What do you started a petition?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
I didn't know you were fighting the Irish government in your free time.
I'm definitely not fighting them. No. I just think there's a lot of room for growth and to make the system a lot better. Like other countries, their system is far greater. I don't know why the Irish system isn't better, because I love Ireland. I think Ireland is an absolutely amazing country, but there should be more opportunity there, especially for the people living and paying tax there to the government. They should have more opportunity to be able to invest and take control of their own finances and access to good financial education. Now, there are really good managers that you can go to. Like, they're not necessarily fund managers, but there are fee-based advisors, let's call them. There are really good ones, but so many people don't know that. They do not know that, and that's where the gap is. That they need to be made aware of it, of the opportunity. But the tax, if you are doing the do-it-yourself investing route, like say now, for example, what I'm doing here in the UAE, investing in index funds myself, if anyone in Ireland is doing that, they're charged 30, and now it used to be 41%, but they're charged 38% exit tax every 8 years without selling anything. That's unheard of. This 8 years called the deemed disposal rule, where you're forced to pay on your investments regardless of whether you sell them or not.
And these gains are unrealized, like they're not sold?
Oh yeah, exactly. It completely impedes the power of the compounding effect. Yeah, completely. I don't know why they have that. Obviously, it's not just me who's done the petition. There's loads of more people, and they are addressing it. It is in talks to change. It's been brought down from 41% to 38%, but hopefully it will be brought down to lower tax.
That's the scariest thing that I've seen proposed is taxing unrealized gains. Yeah. But then that's the whole point. They're unrealized. I haven't sold it. I haven't made any money yet. Like, technically, our businesses are worth X amount. Does that mean we pay taxes on them? We haven't sold them. They're still operating costs.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense to tax unrealized gains.
I'm optimistic it will change, but I think it needs to change faster.
And I guess like we're talking about people in their 20s, their 30s. Let's just, well, we don't have kids yet, maybe one day, hopefully. But if we were to have children, what age do you think you teach them? And how would you teach them about finances if you would? Like what would be the ideal age for a child or even a teenager to understand about personal finances?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to actually have a household that discusses finances. Like I didn't come from a household that discussed money. I just always believed that money was scarce. Money was something you go to work, you be a good person, you go to work and you get your paycheck, and you just live by the rules of what you're being told to do. Check in, check out, pay your taxes, do this, do that. But like there was never any talk about, like didn't know what compound interest was. I didn't even understand the concept of compounding. And compounding, like you can apply compounding to your whole life. So it comes like money talk, being open about these things. They really teach you. If you teach your kids from a very young age and have an open discussion about money, you don't have to sit them down at a table and start running numbers with them. You don't have to do that, but just like, maybe you do this and you do that, and then you get money in return. Teach them just basics, but then teach them about tax too. Like you give them $10, but make sure you take some of that $10 and be like, that's the government. This is how it works.
Yeah, you're gonna tax a child. That's
or was
get
it
them
Warren
used
Buffett
to.
said, what you do is you give them an ice cream, then you eat 30% of the ice cream and be like, that's tax.
No, God. You know what? I
Imagine
think that might be abuse.
Taking 30% of a chocolate ice cream away from a child.
Well, they call that the dad tax or the mom tax anyway.
Yeah.
That's really...
It's good learning though. And I get to eat 30% of an ice cream, so at least I'm not eating the 100% ice cream. That's good for my fitness and health.
There's also like this, I guess like there is growing kind of a wealth gap between the wealthy and not wealthy. But I think that the biggest thing that I try to, I don't, but you do basically, is that you have the same access of tools and resourcing and investing materials as the wealthiest people on earth do. Like you could buy an index fund. Like, look at all this profit Apple makes. I'm like, well, buy an index fund that has that in your portfolio so you can make money off of that company too. I think that, the financial markets is a great way to make very quick and easy compounding interest or returns on your money, because you're buying pieces of these companies that are making billions and billions of dollars.
Literally, it's right there in front of you. It's there, but that's the problem. That people aren't aware, first of all, and people are in avoider mode, and people are fearful that they're going to do something wrong and that it's not for them. Oh, no, this is way above my pay grade, or this is way out of my scope of knowledge. It's actually not. It's very, very simple. Once you just sit down and channel some energy into learning and understanding the basics of finances.
And it's quite funny because everything I learned about finances was in like my general college courses. It wasn't even the advanced courses or anything.
But yeah, yours is way more advanced than mine.
Yeah, but that's because But
if you like it, you like it.
I do enjoy it, but it's I guess like my story of using finance to my advantage was, it wasn't even, once you understand these tools, they're applicable outside of investing. For example, when I was in college, I was paying for college more or less myself, I was working in a mall. Those people that direct you on where to go? Oh, no. I was that for like 4 years paying for college.
You learned great.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is during my, I think, first or second year of college, I was exhausted, working 80 hours a week, going from college to work and working college. That was my life for 4 years. And in the middle, I still remember Dr. Asma. She was my finance professor. She was teaching us about the very things that you're teaching me about. And I was half asleep with my ear up. And she was talking about percentages and compounding interest. But then I realized, I don't have time or money to get a Vanguard account. But what I realized is that there was a 15 to 20% student discount if you paid your tuition upfront.
Oh, there you go.
And then I checked that the loan percentages was particularly low that year for large loans.
Yeah.
It was only 2 to 5% for that year.
Lovely.
So what I did was I took a massive loan, paid my entire tuition for the next 4 years
So
upfront.
yeah, you
I made a
minimize the interest.
I minimized interest. So you can use, it's called
Yes.
debt leveraging.
Yes.
So I debt leveraged, like as they were teaching me debt leveraging,
Yeah.
as the class was going on to make
Yes.
sure that I saved 15% on tuition, and I ended up with a profit, and I kind of
Not a lot of people would recognize this, Mo. Not a lot of people would see this or even think to look into something like this. That's really good.
But that's what I'm saying is like there's nothing against
Yeah.
using debt to then further yourself economically.
True.
Like for example, if you take a giant loan out and you buy a car, that's bad. But if you take a giant loan out and all that money goes to your index fund, that compounds higher than the debt percentage, which a lot of people do.
It depends. It depends. Again, it depends on the position as well that you're in. And are you genuinely understanding the numbers? And I always come back to the psychology. So I'm more about the psychology and relationship with money and then building a plan from there rather than finding every percentage that's going to give you an advantage because that's risk.
Yeah.
And you've got to be comfortable with risk.
Well, I guess I'm coming from a position
That you
that
are.
manages
Yeah.
people's companies and massive
Yes.
amounts
Not
of
everyone,
money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I probably personally, even though I teach money, I understand it all. I personally, knowing me as an individual who understands the game, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I do not want to take loans from banks. I just want to invest my index.
Which is why your fitness analogy is so adept, because 90% of what you're going to gain is from very basic investing, and then you look for the higher percentages around the 10% mark. But
you just get the average, right? Because I'm just an average Joe here in Dubai, you know, trying to live my best life and trying to find the balance between what I love to do in the here and now and what I will continue to do in the future. So I need to find the trade-off for me. And what I found works best for me is by investing 20 to 30% of my income into index funds, passively investing like that. That's what works for me. It's not for everybody. Not everyone can do it, but I know that's what works for me.
And one of the things that I found very appealing about yourself, we had one thing in common, that we're very, I guess, ideologically fueled businesses. Like we want to make some money for ourselves. Sure. But that's secondary to the overarching goal. For me, it was, providing really good tax services.
Genuine service, right?
Genuine services.
Yeah.
So do you have a kind of like a success story? You don't have to name the client, whatever. And what that felt like when you finally got their system sorted and you spoke to them and followed up with them. What was that like?
Definitely. It's actually one of my first clients when I was starting out, and it's not her name, but I'm going to call her Linda because I have to give a name. So let's say Linda. Linda was a super smart woman, super intelligent. She'd moved from the UK and she wanted to just take control of everything. She was going through a really difficult time back home. And actually it was her lawyer who sent her in my direction. So we sat down, we got clear on her wants, her needs, her goals. She's two kids, so she also has to think of them. But basically she was being driven out financially of the household, even though she had helped build the businesses. They had been in her name. They were changed. There was a lot of things that were happening in the background, and she was still showing up to the calls with me every single week, enthusiastic, holding a brave face. And they're the stories, they're the people that I genuinely love to help, because she wanted to take control. She wanted to take charge. She wanted to understand how this all works. How can she build a better life for herself? How can she take control of her finances? And how can she help her boys out as well in the future? And that's one of the best success stories, because it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about how much she paid me. It wasn't about anything about that. It was literally about helping her and seeing her grow as a person, and seeing her enthusiasm as well for the learning as well. That's what gave me energy too, So it was like an exchange of energy, which is definitely the worst business model ever. But when it comes to the human element, and I think we've lost a lot of that. We've lost being human focused and having the other person's best interest in heart. How can you put the other person's best interest at heart before your own? And without like abandoning yourself. Obviously you have to have boundaries too. Like I had to keep boundaries. I had to be professional. There was a lot that. Even though the personal Orla, I just wanted to go and give her a hug, but I knew, like, it's over the phone anyway, over the screen. You can't do that, but I had to take a step back, and there was a lot of learning for me too about my emotions and not being too emotionally invested either, but also providing a genuine, really good service that's honest, transparent, and I see and I hear the other person, and I can help them as best I can.
That's so incredibly relatable. Like some of my favorite client stories aren't necessarily the ones that pay me the most, but the people that we helped out in dire straits or that really need guidance in their life. And you always want to keep us. I think that sometimes the UAE doesn't allow people to have a soft landing. Yeah. So it's interesting that the private market, like people that are expats from all over the world, are kind of building this. I would say a business where that really cares about people and really helps them guide them towards some sense of self-security. And I think that's another reason why it's so important to be ready financially for the future. It's because it allows you to capitalize if you want to be a bit more aggressive. If you want to, let's just say, quit the job that's taking up all your time to pursue a business. Well, if you have your money coming in through your index funds or whatever that's causing, not necessarily to retirement, but subsistence living so you can pursue your dreams.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is so important.
It's like giving yourself options.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to the psychology, understanding your values, what is genuine meaning to you, and then being able to build a plan that's going to give you access to that, to give you the freedom to choose what you genuinely want to do with your life and your time. It's not about, like for me, it was never about climbing a corporate ladder. I never had interest in that. For me, I'm building, like even my business, I'm building a foundation, and I'm building it. I want to build it on trust and honesty. And if that takes me a longer time to be successful, then I'm okay with that. That's my trade-off.
I also feel like since like there's so much consolidation with business, what I've seen is an increase of really micro businesses. So people that are effectively making as much as employees, but running micro businesses on their own because they retain more flexibility in contract work. And I think that, well, the good thing about being with a large company is that they tend to have pretty deep pockets for when things go up and down.
Yeah, but volatility, of course,
But now that we're seeing corporations not immediately slashing those people as soon as they're in the red.
Yeah.
So I think that it's even more important than ever to serve as your own financial backdrop and not rely on the stability of a corporate job.
Yeah, definitely. And being adaptable as well. You have to follow the opportunity. You do. And that's the thing. And the beauty about here as well is that there's so much opportunity. Yeah. People are like, especially with what's going on now, but I'm like, no, it's good. I'm like, there's change happening. And when there's change, there's opportunity. But it's up to you to not be scared and actually go find the opportunity and then try and take advantage of it as best you can.
You just need leverage. I think at the end of the day, when you're living paycheck to paycheck and whatever company or place you're working at asks you to do something and you can't say no, sometimes it can even cross over to really risky things or high liability things or things you may not know are exactly right. Yeah. I like to say you want to be able to afford being moral. Because at the end of the day, if you're, gun to your head, families...
you can step away.
You can step away and you could say,
and that's important, having that ability and giving yourself that access to be able to step away or say no to anything. And let's say, for example, let's go away from business and talk about your personal life, being able to step away from a relationship that you don't want to be stuck in. Having that foundation set in place gives you that opportunity.
I don't have that choice. If my wife, she
but I know your wife. She's pretty amazing. So you're good.
She's very calm, very relaxed. But I live in fear, constant.
She's amazing. I know her well. So I got to back her up here.
No, I portray her. She's the most calm. I'm the problem.
Hey, and once you recognize that, you can change it. Self-awareness, Mo.
Make sure I won't get a call on you with Sahar. She'll be like, leave him now. He's causing trouble. So there's also this demographic of people that are considering completely outsourcing their finances. What is your opinion on that? Should the average person think about outsourcing their finances to someone else, or should they always just be in control?
Well, it depends, again, on the person and the position they're in. Now, there are different ways to do it. You can outsource it. But what I would recommend, it's actually one of the things it was a bit after COVID when I came back to the UAE and I was like, right, I need to sort myself out. What am I going to start investing in? That's not stock picking and that's not crypto. So I did actually look for fund managers, but I knew from my self-study that I didn't want to go with a commission-based advisor. So I would recommend people, if they are looking to outsource it, just don't go with a commission-based advisor. Check the fees, check what the structure, check what the plan is. Are you getting locked into something? Do you have any control? Do you have any access? And are there exit fees? So check the fees, what they're investing in. Are there exit fees? Can you get out if you need to get out? And understand what they're getting paid to. You're fully entitled to know what they're investing in. You're fully entitled to know what fees you're paying, and you're fully entitled to know, are there exit penalties before you make any decision, or go for a fee-based advisor. If you are going to outsource it, a fee-based advisor. But of course, I believe that you should take control yourself and learn and educate yourself to do it yourself.
Is there a point where you consider like, is there an amount of money that you're saying, okay, I'm worth this much, this is taking this, if I manage,
so the principles are the same.
Yeah.
So once you know the system, once you know the structure, I've worked with entrepreneurs who are earning a lot of money, a lot of money. But it's the same, like, just into your passive index funds, get it in there.
And that's
you
all
can,
it is.
of course, go to an advisor and maybe they'll build a plan for you. Maybe they'll take a bit more risk. Maybe they'll. I don't want to go bashing them now, but like, you can actually learn it yourself. And once you just understand, right? But you're earning this amount of money now. You're here. Put some away and retain that amount of money. Like, preserve it. You don't need to take as much risk either.
The most interesting thing is just understanding, like, how certain people can be very wealthy but completely lack knowledge in one way. Or one of my wealthiest clients sells fish. He's a fish provider.
Nice.
He sells fish all over the world. He just makes a lot of money selling fish. But if you were to ask him, okay, how are you investing your money?
Yeah.
Completely drawn a blank. He knows that accounting needs to happen, which we do, etc. So I think that
he knows the jobs, right?
He knows the job, and I feel like a lot of wealthy people, they tend to be people that know one thing,
and they can afford it, right?
They can afford it.
They can afford it, so that's also important. They can afford it. Now, are they earning as much as they could be? It doesn't maybe matter because they can afford it. So that's the trade-off. They're happy to outsource it. They are I've had a conversation with someone where it's just like, I just don't want to deal with this. This is just not on my forte. I've no interest. I am happy to pay the excessive fees. That's fair enough. Whereas me, the position I'm coming from, the position I've been in, I'm not happy to pay that, you know? And the problem is that, let's say, for example, someone on a 20,000 dirham salary, right? Let's go with that. If they start outsourcing their finances and they're now paying an advisor 1 to 2% in fees, that's going to completely impede the amount of money they're investing, because they're not investing 20,000 dirhams. They're probably investing maybe 2,000 dirhams of that 20,000. So now if you're taking 1 to 2% annually over a 30-year investment period, that's going to completely impede the power of your compounding growth.
And that doesn't mean to say you need to make 20,000 dirhams a month to begin looking. Like that was the best number that came. The
first
time I was looking into which index fund to pick I was making like 5,000 dirhams, something like ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, well done. Kudos to you.
Yeah, and then, but even that, like, once again, if you could scrounge together 1,000 dirhams, 500, 800 dirhams, that
apply percentages to the amount. Yeah. So forget I said 20,000. Like, apply 10%. Richest Man in Babylon, great book. A part of you deserves, to earn for your future. Right? So it recommends in the book at least investing into assets that accumulate over time, at least around 10% of what you earn. So part of what you earn is yours to keep. That was a quote that I couldn't think of.
Well, we keep on talking about the future and how, we're saving for the future and retirement, etc. Okay, let's just say 20 years have passed, Orla. You've done everything. You have the money you want. You can retire. What does your dream retirement look like? This is not a finance question, obviously, but what is your personal dream your financial?
I've thought about being in the mountains and just waking up every morning. No alarm clock. I've got my book. I've got my cup of coffee. I can go hiking, go trail running. Oh, maybe in 20 years I won't be able to trail run. No, I think if I keep going, if I keep stay fit now, it's the compounding effect. Once I stay fit now and keep going, then in 20 years time I'll be fit and healthy to be able to live in my little cabin and be by the mountains. But you see, I also want beach access. Okay. So I need to find somewhere that is going to give me access to the beach, also access to the mountains, and also is tax efficient, because I don't want to pay tax legally.
Yeah, that's another thing I've seen in common. At the end of the day, like, all wealthy people want to do is go back into the woods and live in a cabin and not be contacted by society.
But to be fair, right, when you actually do that, you get so bored so fast, and then boredom equals depression. No, you still need something that'll stimulate your mind. So I say this is an ideal. It's probably not going to be the reality. I don't think I'm ever going to retire because I'm just a high energy person. I need stimulation. I need something to keep my brain going.
Partially things like, when I started my business, it was initially stressful, but I'm like, I could do this for a while, like even into my mid-60s.
I don't plan on ever retiring.
Yeah.
Now, will I be still coaching finance? I don't know. But you see, in 20 years' time, I'll probably have all the clients come back to me and be like, oh, hey, Orla, now we need to start figuring out how to withdraw.
Oh, yeah. And another thing I've seen in common is like I have the average Pakistani person dream of owning a tea shop, just like everyone else. I'll be like,
coffee shop as well. Yeah, I think I'd like a coffee shop too. I love coffee.
There's there's synergy here. We need to get back and talk about
we will.
Our coffee shop in 20 years.
Yeah. Lovely. Delicious. Where will we get our beans from? Where will we source the beans?
How are we going to get them to the mountains and the beach somehow? Like, we need to figure out a way.
We'll manage some supply chain. It'll be all good by then. Hey, it'll be AI.
Yeah.
It'll probably transport, teletransport or whatever by then. Well, is that even a thing?
Well, thanks for coming on, Orla.
Thanks,
this was really helpful, and we'll hang out soon. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers.
Right,
Thanks, Mo.
Bye.